Alright, y'all, part 2. We're going to carry on. Alright? So, once again, but if any man does fail, he must never again do those things which caused his failure, but he must form friendships and act justly all over again, or for the first time from scratch, from bottom on up. For it is the gift of Allah to be able to do good actions and not the contrary. So delighted with these words, the king asked another how he could be free from grief. And he replied, if he never injured anyone, but did good to everybody, and followed the pathway of righteousness, tazadat, for its fruits, for its offspring, for its results, bring freedom from grief. But we must pray to Allah, that unexpected evils such as death or dis-ease or pain or anything of this kind, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, may not come upon us and injure us in Yeshua's mighty name. But since you are devoted to piety, religious or spiritual devotion, no such misfortune will ever come upon you. The king bestowed great praise upon him in Acts the 10th. What is the highest form of glory? And he said, to honor Allah through your actions, through your thoughts, through your feelings, through your words, through the fruit of your spirit. And we know what the fruit of the spirit is. And this is done not with gifts and sacrifices, but with purity of soul and holy conviction, since all things are fashioned and governed by Allah, the Father of creation, the Three in One, in accordance with His will. Of this purpose you are in constant possession, as all men can. As all men can, from your achievements in the past and in the present. With loud voice, the king greeted them all and spoke kindly to them. And all those who were present expressed their approval. Yeah, wow. This is remarkable. Woo. Where'd they get this type of wisdom from? Wow, these guys are intelligent. They were right about them. Wow. Especially the philosophers. For they were far superior to them. In other words, far superior to the philosophers, both in conduct and in argument, since they always made Allah, the Father of creation, creator of heaven and earth, manifester of all life, their starting point. So they always made God their starting point. After this, the king, to show his good feeling, proceeded to drink the health of his guests. So he started to drink the holy fruit of the word. And this was written about 150 BC. That's wild. So now we go to chapter, chapter 9, verse 8. So verse 8 epitomizes the value of knowledge. Verse 28, parental affection. Note especially the question in verse 26 and the answer. Also note the question in verse 47 and the answer. This is sage advice for businessmen. So on the following day, the same arrangements were made for the banquet, and the king, as soon as an opportunity occurred, began to put questions to the men who sat next to those who had already responded. And he said to the first, is wisdom capable of being taught? Can wisdom be taught? And he said, the soul is so constituted, it's built, that it is able by the divine power of God Almighty Al-Shaddai to receive all the good fruit, and reject the contrary. So the soul is so constituted that it is able, by reason, by the divine power, to receive all the good and reject the contrary. Verse 3. The king expressed approval and asked the next man, what is it that is most beneficial to health? And he said, temperance. Control over your temper, over your emotion and your mood. It's beneficial to your health, especially laughter. And it is not possible to acquire this unless Allah create a disposition towards it. So unless the Most High create a tendency towards it. So the king spoke kindly to the man and said to another, how can a man worthily pay the debt of gratitude to his parents? And he said, by never causing them pain. And this is not possible unless Allah dispose the mind to the pursuit of the noblest beginnings and ends. So dispose again, tendency. Unless Allah give the mind the tendency to the pursuit of the noblest ends. So I pray that the Father gives me the urge and the feeling and the yearning to pursue the noblest ends. May He dispose my mind to the pursuit of the noblest ends. So the king expressed agreement and asked the next how he could become an eager listener. And he said, by remembering that all knowledge is useful. No matter who you're getting it from, no matter how old someone is, no matter their age, no matter their sex, no matter their nationality, all that. But he said, by remembering that all knowledge is useful. Because it enables you by the help of Allah, the Father of creation, in a time of emergency, to select some of those things which you have learned. Now you got options because you listen and you've learned from many people and learned from other people's fault and mistakes, and you learn from their successes and their rewards. So now, because it enables you by the help of Allah, by the help of the Most High, if you pray for it, in a time of emergency, to select some of the things which you have learned and apply them to the crisis which confronts you now. And so the efforts of men are fulfilled by the assistance of Ya Allah. So the king praised them, which means the king thanked them, and asked the next how he could avoid doing anything contrary to the law. And he said, if you realize, that it is God, Ya Allah, who has put the thoughts into the hearts of the lawgivers, that the lives of men might be preserved, you will follow them. So if you realize that it is God who has put the thoughts into the hearts of the lawgivers, that the lives of men might be preserved, you will follow them. In today's system, it is not the Most High who put the laws in the hearts of the legislators and those who force their law on you. They're law forcers, not lawgivers. So the king acknowledged the man's answer and said to another, what is the advantage of kinship? Kinship is like, being part of the same family, and and you're a descendant of Jacob, Isaac, and Abraham. All that is kinship. So connection, the definition of kinship is connection by heredity, marriage, or adoption, family relationship, relationship by nature or character, affinity, connection by blood, or adoption of marriage, kinship. So what is the advantage of that? And he replied, listen carefully. If we consider that we ourselves are afflicted by the misfortunes which fall upon our relatives, and if their sufferings become our own, then the strength of kinship is apparent at once. It is apparent that whatever misfortunes or good fortunes that befall your family have fallen upon you, once you realize and consider that we ourselves are afflicted by the misfortunes which fall upon our relatives, our family. If your mom's poor, you grew up poor. If if your mom and dad are together while you're young, then you grew up with both parents. If not, you're used to having just one, or actually none, or some adoptive parent. But anyways, then the strength of kinship is apparent at once. So that means it is apparent that you're in the position you are because of your relatives, because of your family. And, we can't really control none of that. We can't control anybody. We can't repair hearts. We can't make our mom and dad love each other when they don't. That's why it's important for you mothers and fathers to think about this thoroughly before you have children. Think about these things before you have children, because all of your misfortunes and fortune must go to them, one way or another. Then the strength of kinship is apparent at once. For it is only when such feeling is shown that we shall win honor and esteem in their eyes. For help, when it is linked with kindliness, is of itself a bond which is altogether indissoluble. And in the day of their prosperity, indissoluble meaning it cannot dissolve. Help, when it is linked with kindliness, is of itself a bond which is altogether indissoluble. It makes family and kinship, because family is bond. And in the day of their prosperity, when they are prospering, we must not crave their possessions, but must pray Allah Hayam to bestow all manner of good upon them. So don't be waiting for their inheritance and all this stuff. I can't wait to have the house after they pass away. Oh man, they got this health insurance. I can't wait. What is your problem? We must not crave their possessions or prosperity, but must pray Allah Hayam to bestow all manner of good and benediction and benevolence upon them. And having accorded to him the same praise as to the rest, the king asked another how he could attain freedom from fear. And he said, when the mind is conscious, aware, alert, attentive, when you are conscious of being conscious, are you aware that you are aware? Are you aware that I am aware that you are aware that you're aware? And are you aware that I am aware of my awareness? Clarity. And he said, when the mind is conscious that it has wrought no evil, that it has done no wrong, and it has no guilt, and it has no fear, and it knows that it is safe, and it knows that it is secure, and that it trusts in the Most High, and His one and only Son, Yis-RoyAl. And when Allah Hayam directs it to all noble counsels, within and without, spiritually and physically. The king, so he said, the only way you can have freedom from fear is when the mind is conscious that it has wrought no evil, no wrongdoing or disobedience, and when Allah Hayam directs it to all noble counsels. So the king expressed his approval and asked another how he could always maintain a righteous judgment. And he replied, if he constantly set before his eyes the misfortunes which befall men, because we all go through misfortunes, ups and downs, and recognize that it is Allah Hayam who takes away prosperity and give prosperity from some and brings others to great honor and glory. So once again, if he constantly set before his eyes the misfortune which befall men and recognize that it is Allah Hayom who takes away prosperity from some and brings others to great honor and glory, then he could always maintain a right judgment. Right, just judgment. So the king gave a kindly reception to the man and asked the next to answer the question how he could avoid a life of ease and pleasure. And he replied, if he continually remembered that he was the ruler of a great empire. Look at all of this you got. Look at all these people that you got willing to serve you. And the master of vast multitudes, and you are master of mass multitude, a president of a mass multitude, and that his mind ought not to be occupied with other things, like being at ease and being comfortable in pleasure when you have a whole country and multitude to take care of. And they all have misfortunes and they need some help in healthcare and they need help in areas of justice, in areas of education. You see what I'm saying? How can you be at ease and pleasure? So let's read that one more time. If he continually remembered that he was the ruler of a great empire and the Lord, the master of vast multitudes, and that his mind ought not to be occupied with other things, but he ought always to be considering how he could best promote their welfare. If he continually remember that he is the ruler of a great empire and the ruler of vast multitudes, and that his mind should not be occupied with other things but that, and consider how he can best promote their welfare to advance the society, his nation, and his people. He must pray too to Allah Hayom that no duty might be neglected. Aman. Neglect no duty, Obama, and all you presidents, although you never will. And I forgive you. Someone else is worthy of that seed, and his name is Yis-RoyAl, the seed of Dawud. So having bestowed praise upon him, the king asked the 10th how he could recognize those who were dealing treacherously with him. So how can I realize those who are lying within my group, those who are sneaky within my group, those who are snakes within my circle? How can I recognize those who are dealing treacherously in treason and perjury with me, fraudulently? And he replied to the question, if he observe, be conscious, aware, alert, and attentive to every action, to every expression, face gesture, body movement, breathing pattern, word selection. You know what I'm saying? And if someone's overly flattering you, take that into consideration. When someone's telling you overly good things, oh man, you are really great out there, man. You're the best in the world. Ain't nobody like you. You're awesome. Hold up. I gotta watch out for you. You're up to something. You know, don't say that, but observe whether the bearing of those about him was natural. Was it natural that they said I was good out there because I was really good out there? Or are they forcing it? So if he observed whether the bearing of those about him was natural and whether they maintained the proper rule of presidents at receptions and councils and in their general intercourse. So did they hold the proper rule? Did they go out of bounds? Did they hit any fouls? You know what I'm saying? Did they go out of their boundary a little bit? So presidents mean the fact, state, or right of coming before in time, order, or position. The fact, state of being, or right of coming before in time, order, or position. So applications arriving first will receive precedence in processing. So precedence what came first, before in time, in order, or position. Priority claimed or received because of greater importance. Priority, to come first. Antecedent, the right to superior honor. All right, so something that comes first, presidents. So the proper rule of presidents. So once again, if he observed whether the bearing of those about him was natural and whether they maintained the proper rule of presidents would come first at receptions and councils, you know what I'm saying, to observe this. And in their general intercourse, you know, friendship, you know, whatever is going on outside of receptions and council, and never going beyond the bounds of propriety and congratulations or in other matters of deportment. So we know deportment is like to deploy. Let's see what propriety mean real quick, just to make sure. So propriety of or relating to a proprietor or to ownership, like a sole proprietorship, privately owned as a business, owned by a private individual or corporation under a trademark or patent. Ownership, so it pretty much mean ownership. Propriety, sole ownership. So going beyond the bounds of propriety, which mean is sole ownership, and congratulations or in other matters of deportment. So let's see what deportment is just in case. So deportment, a manner of personal conduct, behavior. See, luckily we did look at it because I thought it meant to deport. It probably does too. So it's the manner in which one conducts oneself, behavior. A manner of personal conduct. The manner of conducting or bearing oneself. So bearing, how you held yourself. Bearing or what you're holding inside. Yes, so bearing mean the manner in which one carries or conducts oneself. So bearing and deportment is almost the same thing. So also bearing mean the manner in which one conducts or carries oneself, including posture and gesture. A man of dignified bearing, the act, capability. All right, so that makes sense. So how you conduct yourself. So let's read that again. If he observed whether the bearing, the attitude and conduct of those about him was natural, if it was natural or forced, and whether they maintained the proper rule of precedence, what comes first at receptions and councils, which is events, and in their general intercourse outside of events, never going beyond the bounds of propriety, you see, which never go beyond, wait, hold on, pardon me. So general intercourse, never going beyond, private business, you see, like, hey, how about your personal life and your private life, or how's your wife, you know, how's she doing today, you know? Me and her had hung out yesterday night, you know, never going beyond the bounds of private and personal business and congratulations or in other matters of deportment, of behavior. But Allah Hayam will incline your mind. He will make you aware. He will speak to you. The spirit of revelation, the spirit of insight, you see, and curiosity, and the spirit of truth will incline your mind, which means it will, you know, make you listen to the signs, and you will realize who that person is, if they are treacherous or not. O king, but Allah Hayam will incline your mind, O king, to all that is noble. So the spirit of revelation will reveal what is noble and what is not noble. You don't even need to know what is not noble. All you need to know is what is noble. And once you know what is noble, when someone's not acting in that precedence, you see, if their bearing is not acting in accordance with that precedence and deportment, then you already know that they're not noble, that they're treacherous. So pay attention to people, how they look at you, how they breathe around you, how they feel about you. You know what I'm saying? How they're dressed, facial gestures, eye contact, blinking too much, nose wiggling, you know, gulping spit, you know, difficulty breathing. All these things are signs. So when the king had expressed his loud approval, yeah, you're right, thank you for that one, and praised them, thanked them all individually, amid the plaudits of all who are present. So plaudit, I believe, will mean among the guests. Let's see what plaudit mean real quick. Among the plaudits, so enthusiastic expression of praise or approval. So enthusiastic praise or approval. So amid the plaudits of all who are present, amid the amid the enthusiastic expression of praise and approval. So amid the expressions, the enthusiastic, so amid the enthusiastic expressions and praise of all who are present. So he was enthusiastically happy, enthusiastically praising them. And that's what plaudits mean, to applaud. They turned to the enjoyment of the feast. So now, on the next day, this seemed like the fourth day, when the opportunity offered, the king asked the man, what is the grossest form of neglect? Now, hold on 1 second, y'all. Hallelujah! All glory and praise to the Most High, Yahweh Alahayam. He is the self-existing creator. Yahweh, Ashur, Yahweh. He is who he is. Amen. So, what is the grossest form of neglect? The nastiest form of neglect? And he replied, if a man does not care for his children and devote every effort to their education, to their edification, and knowing who they are, about their body, where they stand, how to accomplish things, how to plant, how to survive, learning about the Most High in the Bible. If a man or a woman does not care for his children and devote every effort to their education, edification, not school, because that's neglect. That's a nasty neglect, because school does not teach your children anything, period. I don't care what you say. It don't teach them anything, period. And definitely nothing like what we've been reading today. For we always pray to Allahayam, not so much for ourselves as for our children, that every blessing may be theirs. Every blessing. Our desire that our children may possess self-control. Self-control. This is a form of edification. Your children must learn self-control. It's only realized by the power of Yahweh Alahayam. So only through the power of the self-existing creator. So you must pray that the Most High bestows all the blessings upon your children. For we always pray to Allahayam, not so much for ourselves, but for everybody, for the saints, for the believers, for the non-believers too, As for our children, that every blessing may be theirs, most of all, because your children are your descendants. They'll pick up from where you left off. They pick up your misfortunes and your fortune. So let's build something for our children. The world's going to be for our children later on. We must think about them and put them ahead of us without sacrificing our position as teacher, aka parent. So our desire that our children may possess self-control is only realized by the power of Allahayam, through the power of these words, in Yeshua mighty, mighty name. Amen. Salah. So page 169, verse 24, chapter 9 of the letter of ARISTEAS, or ARISTEAS, found in the forgotten book of Eden. So the king said that he had spoken well, and then asked another how he could be patriotic. By keeping before your mind, he replied, the thought that it is good to live and die in one's own country. Residence abroad brings contempt upon the poor and shame upon the rich, as though they had been banished for a crime. If you bestow benefits upon all, as you continually do, Allahayam will give you favor with all, and you will be accounted patriotic. If you bestow benefits upon all, and the thought that it is good to live and die in one's own country. So after listening to this man, the king asked the next in order how he could live amicably with his wife, which means peaceful and in agreement. Peacefully in agreement. Without fighting and argument and all that stuff. So peaceably. Amicably. Politely. Nicely. Peacefully. Having or marked by agreement in feeling or action. Like a contract, how to act in agreement. Because peace is a form of agreement and harmony, perfection. The opposite is chaos. So amicably. So how he can live amicably, peacefully, gently, and in agreement with his wife? And he answered, by recognizing that womankind are by nature headstrong and energetic in the pursuit of their own desires. They're emotionally charged. They always will be. So you got to come at them softer and meeker, you see. And on top of that, women are more prone to spirit, to psychic, you see, to being spontaneous. Men are more logical, more putting things together, 1 + 1 = 2 and things like that. You know, a little less emotional, a little less spontaneous. But women are spontaneous. And together, a man and a woman, logic and emotion can be very powerful together. Like, whoa, if we put our emotions into working in a logical and chronological order, 1, 2, 3, with that energy and emotion of a woman, wow, many things can be accomplished. But emotion alone leads to disaster, and logic alone leads to disaster. Man and woman completes one another. That's why they become one in marriage, and only through marriage. So by recognizing that womankind are by nature headstrong and energetic in the pursuit of their own desires, like the moon and Jezebel, very rebellious after what they want. Doesn't mean, you know, the woman's bad, but she wants what she wants, and she wants it now. There ain't nothing you're going to do to change her mind. And woman can't change man. He's too busy thinking logical to lose path of what's logical and makes sense. So, you know, someone got to give and consider and, you know, to think about the other instead of self. And this is how you can live amicably with your wife or husband. And so the woman is subject to sudden, spontaneous changes of opinion through fallacious reasoning, through deceptive reasoning. Fallacious mean deceptive. So through deceptive reasoning, it will seem it's legit why she did what she did, but it really wasn't. It's deceptive. And their nature is essentially weak. That doesn't mean they're weak, but in nature compared to man, it's a little bit more weak. So she's more sensitive in other ways. She's more soft. You got to really, nurture her and take care of her and be cautious and careful of what you say and do. Now, this is how you can live amicably with your wife. So it is necessary to deal wisely with them. Wisely. Watch your words. And not to provoke strife. Because she will fight until she proves herself right. You're not going to win the fight, man. Let her win. For the successful conduct of life, the steersman must know the goal towards which he ought to direct his course. So the person, the pirate or the captain navigating the ship on the sea must know the goal towards which he ought to direct his course. Where do you want to take this conversation? Where do you want to take her emotion and mind? What words can you use wisely to accomplish that? What roads and routes can you take on the ocean where there is least amount of turbulent waves? To the right, if you use these words, to the right, there's a bunch of waves. You can get smashed up, hit, and destroyed. Or you can take the left, more wisely and meek and kind and soft-spoken words and actually make it to your destination. So the steersman must know the goal. The captain of the ship must know the goal, the intention, the reason towards which he ought to direct his course, to where he should direct his lips and his thoughts in the whole vibe of this discussion. Never let discussion and statement and expressing yourself turn into an unamicable strife. So it is only by calling upon the help of Allah that men can steer a true course of life at all times. Because the Spirit of the Most High, the Holy Spirit of Truth, Harawak Kwada Shamat, is a spirit of guidance. It's a spirit of insight. It's a spirit of wisdom, a spirit of understanding. It's a spirit of all those good fruits of the soul, a spirit of love, a spirit of forgiveness, a spirit of compassion. And because it's all these things in one, it's able to give you wise counsel. Like a lawyer or attorney, well-rounded in law. So only by calling upon the Most High counsel, the Most High help, that men can steer and navigate a true course of life at all times. To watch what you say and what come out your mouth and lips. So the king expressed his agreement. Yeah, that's true. That's so true. That is how I can live amicably with my wife. Gotta work on this one right now, tonight. Because I'm tired of us going at each other's head and neck. So, and he replied, So the king expressed his agreement, his plaudits, his enthusiastic praise, and asked the next, how he could be free from error, mistake. And he replied, if you always act with deliberation, deliberately, intentionally, cautiously, alert, and attentively. Know what plus what equal what. Cause and effect. If I do this, I'll get that. If I don't do this, I won't get that. And maybe this might happen. So I need to do this. So this can be in play for this one to happen. And let me take it one step at a time. One step at a time. One step at a time. One bite at a time. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, deliberately, consciously aware and cautious. This will be a good time to weigh out your options based on what you've learned from everybody. From being a good listener, in other words, as we've learned previously. And he replied, if you always act with deliberation and never give credence to slanders, which mean talking bad about someone, let's see what that is real quick. I know what it means, but let's check it out real quick. Boom. So slander is oral communication, not written. Defamation will probably be, defamation is slander and libel. Libel will be if you write down something false. Slander is when you orally communicate something false. So oral communication or a false and malicious, which mean negative statements that damage the reputation of another. A false and malicious statement or report about someone, like bearing false witness verbally. To utter a slander about, to utter or spread slander. So it's a oral communication of false statements injurious to a person's reputation. So, if you never give credence to oral slander or rumors or libel or any form of defamation, which is actually against the law, but prove for yourself the things that are said to you, which mean do some research, test and try what they're saying. Don't just believe it. Do some research, ask some questions, be curious, and decide by your own judgment the requests which are made to you. So if they say chop his head off because he did this, or put him in jail because he did this, the first thing you ask, well, before I move on or do anything or say anything, please bring your proof, bring your evidence, bring a contract, audio, videotape, consent, something, witnesses, bring some proof. This got to be meritful or it's meritless. Bring some prima facie evidence. Or where's the injured party? Who's injured by what you said and stated? And if you don't, that means you're a liar, and I would have to actually judge you because you've lied and you slandered that person. Luckily, I never gave credence to slanders, but prove for myself the things that are said to me and decided by my own judgment, my own analysis, after talking to my people and doing my research, the requests which were made to me. And once again, carry out everything in the light of your judgment, after what you found in the truth of your judgment. You will be free from error if you test and prove all things. Oh, so you will be free from error, O king. But the knowledge and practice of these things is the work of the divine Godhead, the divine power, the three-in-one, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the all-in-all, Allahayam. So delighted with these words, the king asked another how he could be free from wrath. And he said, in reply to the question, if he recognized that he had power over all, even to inflict death upon them, if he realized that he has the power of life and death in his hand, he don't need to give way to wrath. So if he recognized that he had power over all, even to inflict death upon them, if he gave way to wrath, and that it would be useless and pitiful if he did, just because he was Lord, a master, a king, deprive many of life. What need was there for wrath? Why did you need to destroy us and kill us and take away food stamps, or take away benefits, or take away our rights, or take away the purpose of trial, or null and voiding, nullifying the Constitution, or whatever it may be? What need was there for wrath when all men were in subjection and no one was hostile to him? No one was against you. Everyone was submissive. They were okay with giving up some rights, but now you're going a little bit too far. You're in wrath. So what need was there for wrath when all men were in subjection and no one was hostile to him? It is necessary to recognize that Allahayam rules the whole world in the spirit of kindness, justice, and truth, and without wrath at all. And you, said he, O king, must of necessity copy his example. All of you kings and rulers and wannabes must copy his example. So verse 33, the king said that he had answered well, and then inquired of the next man, what is good counsel? To act well at all times and with due reflection, with due salah, to take pauses and reflect about what you just heard. Take a breather real quick. Take a deep inhale in through your nose. Hold it 3 seconds and exhale out through your mouth. And take that in. and take that in. So, to act well at all times and with due reflection, he explained, comparing and contrast what is advantageous to our own policy with the injurious effects that would result from the adoption of the opposite view, in order that by weighing every point, weighing out your options, we may be well advised and our purpose may be accomplished. So that is good counsel, to reflect upon everything, thoroughly think before you act and speak, comparing what is advantageous and what is not, according to the policy, the law, whatever we call law, and thinking about the cause and effects of what may happen, the injuries, the benefits, the pros, the cons, the goods, the bads, the ups and downs, that would result from the adoption of the opposite view, if you would do the opposite of what you know is beneficial, in order that by weighing, in order in harmony, that by weighing every point, by weighing out your options and thoroughly reflecting still, we may be well advised and our purpose may be accomplished, because we thoroughly thought about it before we acted. Now everything else that is unpredictable is unpredictable, but you must also put the unpredictableness in the process of your reflecting about the pros and cons and the advantages and the disadvantages, and that you think about what possibly can go wrong. But then there's some things that can possibly go wrong that you know that you couldn't possibly have thought of, you know what I'm saying? Like a car crash on the way to the place and things like that, or you just never know, you know? But you weigh out all these options still, and you leave it all up into the Most High's will. If the Most High will it, this shall be done. And most important of all, by the power of Allah, most of all, every plan of yours will find fulfillment because you practice piety, religious spiritual devotion to these words, and edification and insight. Salah. So let's read that one more time all the way through. So what is good counsel? To act well at all times and with due reflection, he replied, comparing what is advantageous to our own policy with the injurious effects that would result from the adoption of the opposite view, in order that by weighing every point, we may be well advised and our purpose may be accomplished. And most important of all, by the power of Yahweh, every plan of yours will find fulfillment because you practice piety. Every plan of yours will find fulfillment because you practice spiritual devotion. Spirit over matter. Mind over physicality. So the king said that this man had answered well. You have answered well. And asked another, what is philosophy? Philosophy is ways of living. Ways of living, acting, and being. It doesn't necessarily have a God. But according to us, this is what philosophy